Welcome back, everyone. Today we're starting a new deep dive series, and honestly, I've been excited about this one. The book is The Latte Factor by David Bach. Now, David, before we even get into money, why is this book called The Latte Factor? Because at first glance, it almost sounds too simple.
Yeah, and that reaction is exactly why the book works. People hear a latte and think, oh, this is about coffee. But the latte is just a symbol. The real message is about small, unconscious daily choices that quietly shape our entire financial future.
So you're saying it's not really about money first, it's about awareness.
Exactly. Most people don't fail financially because of one big mistake. They fail because of thousands of tiny decisions they never question.
Okay, but let me challenge that a bit. A lot of people listening right now might say, come on, a $4 coffee isn't going to make me rich or poor. Isn't that a fair point?
It sounds fair, but it's incomplete. The book never says, stop enjoying life. What it says is, know the real cost of what you enjoy. That $4 coffee isn't $4. It's what that $4 could become if invested consistently over time.
So the real enemy isn't the latte, it's not understanding opportunity cost.
Exactly. And most people never calculate it, which is why the cost stays invisible.
Here's something I noticed while reading. The book doesn't start with numbers, it starts with a story. Ordinary people, ordinary jobs. Why was that important?
Because money advice usually fails when people can't see themselves in it. This book is saying, you don't need to be rich. You don't need a perfect salary. You don't need luck. You just need consistency plus time plus clarity.
Let me throw in a wrong idea on purpose, and you correct me. When people hear compound interest, they often think like this. If I put $100 into a bank every month at 10% for 1 year, I'll make about $120 profit at the end of the year, right?
That's a very common misunderstanding and a perfect example. First, compound interest is not linear. It doesn't grow in a straight line. Second, it rewards time more than amount. If you invest $100 every month, you're not just earning interest on your money, you're earning interest on your previous interest. That snowball effect becomes powerful not in year 1, but in year 10, 20, 30.
So people focus too much on how much they invest and not enough on how long they invest.
Exactly. And this is one of the deepest messages of the book.
Here's a question I had while reading. Does everyone really have a latte factor? What if someone says, I don't waste money, I'm already careful?
Everyone has one. If not coffee, then something else. Subscriptions they forgot about. Eating out just this once. Upgrading phones too often. Impulse online shopping. The latte factor is personal. It hides where you're not looking.
That part actually hit me, because the book kind of forces you to ask uncomfortable questions, not about income, but about habits.
Yes, and habits are emotional. People don't spend money logically. They spend it emotionally, then justify it logically. That's a strong line. And that's why budgeting alone doesn't work for many people. The book isn't screaming, track every dollar. It's saying, understand your values.
So if someone listens to this podcast but never reads the book, what would they miss?
They'd miss the emotional depth, the real stories, the moments where you realize, oh, this is about my life, not just money. No summary can replace that.
That's important to say. This podcast isn't here to replace the book. It's here to help people who haven't read it understand why they should, and help people who have read it see deeper layers they may have missed.
Exactly. Reading the book is an experience. Listening to a discussion like this is reinforcement.
Before we close part 1, I want to ask something personal. What do you think is the most misunderstood idea in the latte factor?
That is about sacrifice. It's not. It's about alignment. When your daily actions align with your long-term dreams, money stops being stressful and starts becoming a tool.
That's a perfect place to pause. In the next part, we'll talk about paying yourself first, why waiting to earn more later is a trap, and how automation quietly builds wealth while you live your life.
And that's where things start getting really practical.
All right, everyone, this was part 1 of the Latte Factor. Don't stop here. The real transformation begins when you read the book yourself.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is part 2 of our deep discussion on the latte factor. In part 1, we talked about small daily choices and how invisible they really are. Today, I want to move into something the book keeps repeating again and again. Pay yourself first. David, this phrase sounds simple, almost cliché. Why is it such a big deal?
Because most people do the exact opposite. They pay everyone else first. Rent, bills, food, entertainment. And then they look at what's left, which is usually nothing.
But isn't that just realistic? I mean, you have to pay bills first. You can't just ignore them.
Of course, pay yourself first doesn't mean being irresponsible. It means treating your future self like a non-negotiable bill.
So instead of "I'll save if there's money left," it becomes "I'll live on what's left after saving."
Exactly. That one shift changes everything.
Here's where I struggled a bit. What if someone genuinely doesn't earn much? Isn't pay yourself first kind of unrealistic for low income?
That's one of the most common objections, and the book addresses it directly. It's not about the amount, it's about the habit. Even saving 1% rewires your identity from "I can't save" to "I'm a saver."
So psychologically, it matters more than financially, at least at first.
Yes, money behavior is identity-driven.
Let me push back with a wrong idea again. Some people think, I'll start saving seriously once I earn more. Right now, it doesn't make sense. Is that a reasonable plan?
It feels reasonable, but statistically it's wrong. If you don't save when income is low, you usually don't save when income increases either. Expenses rise with income. That's lifestyle inflation.
So waiting for later is basically a trap.
Exactly. The book is very clear. Later is the most expensive word in personal finance.
That line stayed with me. Now let's talk about willpower. A lot of financial advice assumes people are disciplined, but the book seems to say the opposite.
Because willpower is unreliable. You can't rely on motivation every month for 30 years. Life gets busy, emotions change, bad days happen. That's why the book emphasizes automation.
Meaning the money moves before you even see it.
Yes, automatic transfers, automatic investments, automatic savings. When it's automatic, there's no decision to argue with.
So discipline becomes a system, not a personality trait.
Exactly. Systems beat motivation every time.
Here's something interesting. The book doesn't shame people for past mistakes. It almost says, you didn't fail, you just didn't have a system.
That's an important point. Shame keeps people stuck. Clarity sets them free.
Let me ask you this, and this might surprise some listeners. Does enjoying life now conflict with paying yourself first?
No, that's another misunderstanding. The book isn't anti-joy. It's anti-unconscious spending. You can still enjoy coffee, travel, experiences, as long as they don't steal from your future silently.
So the problem isn't pleasure, it's pleasure without intention.
Exactly.
I want to speak directly to 2 groups listening right now. First, people who haven't read the book yet. If they only listen to this podcast, what are they missing?
They're missing the step-by-step clarity, the emotional connection, the confidence that comes from seeing real-life examples. This conversation opens the door. The book walks you through it.
And second, people who have read it, what should they listen for differently?
They should ask themselves, did I understand this intellectually, or did I implement it? Rereading or re-listening often reveals parts you weren't ready for before.
That's true. Some ideas only land when your life reaches a certain point.
Exactly.
Before we close part 2, one final question. If someone could only take one action after this episode, what should it be?
Set up one automatic transfer, even a small one, and then forget about it. That single action is louder than any motivation. Perfect.
In part 3, we'll talk about why becoming rich isn't about luck, how ordinary people quietly build wealth, and why the book says, time. Welcome back. This is part 3 of our deep dive into the latte factor. In the last episode, we talked about why waiting is dangerous and how time is more valuable than most people realize. Today, I want to explore something deeper and maybe a little uncomfortable. Why do so many people believe that wealth is only for other people?
Because it feels that way. When people see wealth, they see headlines, celebrities, tech founders, investors. They don't see the quiet majority, ordinary people who built wealth slowly, invisibly, patiently.
So the book is trying to remove this psychological barrier?
Exactly. One of the most powerful hidden messages in the Latte Factor is this: wealth is not reserved for the extraordinary. It's built by the consistent.
But let's be honest, some people do have advantages. Higher income, better opportunities, family support. Doesn't that make a huge difference?
It can, but the book focuses on something more universal: behavior patterns. Across income levels, education levels, backgrounds, the people who build wealth tend to follow similar habits. They start early, they stay consistent, they automate, they avoid emotional decisions.
So wealth isn't random, it's patterned.
Exactly.
Here's a belief I hear all the time. You need a big opportunity to become financially secure, like a lucky investment, a major promotion, or a breakthrough moment. Is that true?
It's possible, but it's unreliable. The book argues something quieter but more powerful. Small actions repeated daily beat rare big events.
So instead of one life-changing moment, it's thousands of small reinforcing moments.
Yes, and that idea is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. If wealth depends on luck, you can wait. If wealth depends on habits, you have responsibility.
That's confronting. Growth often is. Let me say something that might sound harsh, but many people secretly believe it. Some think rich people are just different. They think differently, they're wired differently. Is there truth in that?
Yes, but not in the way people assume. They're not born different. They behave differently for long periods of time. Over time, behavior shapes identity. Identity shapes decisions. Decisions shape outcomes.
So what looks like natural success is actually long-term behavioral momentum.
Exactly.
Something interesting in the book is that it never really teaches complex financial strategies. No advanced investing formulas, no complicated market predictions. Why?
Because complexity often becomes an excuse for inaction. People say, I don't understand investing, so I'll wait until I learn everything. But learning everything takes years. Meanwhile, time keeps moving. The book simplifies the process so you can start immediately.
So simplicity is not weakness, it's accessibility.
Yes, and consistency makes simple strategies powerful.
Let me bring up a common mistake. Tell me if this thinking is wrong. Some people say, I missed my chance. If I didn't start in my 20s, it's too late. Is that valid?
It's never too late to improve your trajectory, but the book is honest. Earlier is easier. However, starting late is still better than never starting at all. Think of it like planting a tree. The best time was years ago. The second best time is today.
That idea appears in many self-development concepts, but here it feels more urgent because time literally affects money growth.
Exactly. In finance, time is not symbolic, it's mathematical.
Let's talk about fear. I noticed something subtle in the book. It never directly attacks fear, but it quietly dissolves it. Fear of investing, fear of making mistakes, fear of not knowing enough. Was that intentional?
Yes. Fear thrives in uncertainty and complexity. By simplifying the path and focusing on small, consistent actions, the book reduces the emotional weight of financial decisions. It transforms money from something intimidating into something manageable.
So instead of asking, how do I master the financial world, the book asks, what is the next small step I can repeat?
Exactly.
Let me ask something deeper. Is wealth in this book defined purely as money, or is there something broader happening?
That's one of the most profound layers people often miss. Wealth here includes peace of mind, choice, freedom from constant stress, the ability to make decisions without panic. Money is just the measurable form of something psychological.
So the real transformation isn't financial, it's emotional stability.
Yes, financial control reduces emotional chaos.
That's powerful. Let's speak directly to listeners again.
For people who haven't read the book yet, what is the biggest misunderstanding they might have right now?
They might think this is just another save money message, but it's deeper. It's about redesigning your relationship with time, habits, and future identity. That experience unfolds gradually when you read the book. And for those who already read it, they should ask, did I only understand the mechanics or did I internalize the mindset? Because mindset determines whether the mechanics last.
Before we close part 3, I want to ask one final question. If someone believes they are bad with money, can that identity actually change?
Yes, but not through motivation. Identity changes through repeated evidence. Every time you save automatically, every time you invest consistently, every time you choose long-term over impulse, you collect proof that you are a different person. Over time, the label changes.
So financial transformation is identity transformation.
Exactly.
That's a perfect place to pause. In our final part, part 4, we'll bring everything together. We'll talk about long-term vision, legacy thinking, and why the book ultimately isn't about money, but about the kind of life you design. We'll see you in part 4.
Welcome back. This is part 4, the final part of our deep dive into the Latte Factor. In the previous episodes, we talked about small daily choices, paying yourself first, time, consistency, and how ordinary people build wealth. But today, I want to step back and ask a bigger question. What is all of this really for? Because saving money, investing, planning, those are tools. But what are they building?
That's the most important question, and many people never ask it. They focus on numbers but forget meaning. The book quietly points towards something deeper. Money is not the goal. Life design is the goal.
Life design. I like that phrase. So instead of asking, how much money should I make, we should ask, what kind of life am I trying to build?
Exactly. Because if you don't define the life, money has no direction. It just flows in and out without purpose.
That explains something I noticed while reading. The book never encourages obsession with wealth. It encourages clarity about freedom. Freedom to choose where you live, freedom to choose how you spend time, freedom to say no, freedom to rest, freedom to help others.
Yes, and those freedoms require preparation long before you need them.
Let me challenge that with something people often think. Some say, I'll focus on designing my life later. Right now, I just need to survive. Isn't survival the first priority?
Of course, survival matters, but design doesn't require perfection. Even in difficult situations, you can still ask, what direction am I moving? Design begins with awareness, not luxury.
So even small financial choices are actually life direction choices.
Exactly. Every repeated action is a vote for a future version of yourself.
That connects deeply with identity again. The book keeps returning to the future self, almost like we're responsible for someone we haven't met yet.
Yes, your future self is real, just not visible yet. And most people treat that person like a stranger, or worse, an afterthought.
That's uncomfortable, but true. We protect today's comfort and sacrifice tomorrow's peace.
Exactly. The Latte Factor is not just about spending money today, it's about borrowing from tomorrow without noticing.
I want to talk about something emotional now, something the book hints at but doesn't loudly announce. Regret. What role does regret play in financial life?
Regret grows where awareness was absent. People rarely regret saving too early, but many regret waiting too long. And the painful part is, they often knew what to do, they just didn't act.
So the book is not just financial education, it's regret prevention.
That's a powerful way to say it.
Let me ask something deeper. What happens psychologically when someone gains financial control? Not just more money, but real stability.
Their mental energy changes. Constant background stress disappears. Decision-making becomes calmer. Fear of unexpected events decreases. And something interesting happens. They start thinking long-term in other areas of life too. Health, relationships, learning, purpose.
So financial discipline spreads into life discipline.
Yes, stability creates mental space for growth.
Another theme I noticed, the book is very quiet about comparison. It never says be richer than others, it says be secure within yourself.
Comparison destroys satisfaction. When your goal is external ranking, there's no finish line. When your goal is internal stability, progress feels meaningful.
Let's speak to listeners who haven't read the book yet, one final time. If they only listen to this entire podcast series, what are they still missing?
They're missing the personal confrontation. Reading the book slowly, seeing your own habits reflected, pausing, thinking, questioning. That internal dialogue cannot be replaced by listening alone. The book is not just information, it's an experience of recognition. And for those who have read it, they should revisit one question. Am I living aligned with what I understood, or did I return to old patterns? Knowledge fades without reinforcement.
Before we close this entire series, I want to ask the biggest question of all. If someone truly understands the Latte Factor deeply, what changes first, their bank account or their mindset?
The mindset always changes first.
So the real message of the book is not save more money, it's become the kind of person who naturally builds a meaningful future.
Exactly.
That feels like the perfect conclusion. Because this book and this entire discussion was never just about finance, it was about awareness, consistency, responsibility, time, identity, and ultimately, intentional living.
Yes, money simply makes the consequences visible.
All right, everyone. This brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Latte Factor. If you listened to all 4 parts, thank you for being here. But remember something important. This conversation is not a substitute for reading the book. If you truly want to understand its depth, its emotional impact, its personal clarity, read it slowly, reflect honestly, and let it challenge how you see your daily choices. And if you've already read it, revisit it. Sometimes the most powerful insights only appear the second time or the third. Thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you for thinking deeply. And thank you for investing, not just money, but attention into your future. Until next time, take care of your choices because they quietly create your life. Goodbye, and we'll see you in the next episode.